Hi, I'm Heather Marie Montilla, and you are watching PBS Books. On behalf of PBS Books, USA Today, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, ASALH, and the Muhammad Ali Center, as well as many community partners, including libraries and local PBS stations, it is my pleasure to welcome you. In September, PBS stations across the country aired Muhammad Ali, a film by Ken Burns, Sarah Burns, and David McMahon. Tonight, we celebrate that special man again. January 17th would have been Muhammad Ali's 80th birthday. This year, his birthday coincides with the holiday honoring another American icon, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who also promoted love and racial justice. We all know Muhammad Ali as the greatest of all time for his success inside the boxing ring. This program will explore how Muhammad Ali became a champion of service through his humanitarian work outside of the ring. We'll explore how Muhammad inspired those around him by speaking to those who were closest to him. It is now my pleasure to introduce Muhammad Ali's wife, co-founder, and vice chair of the Muhammad Ali Center, Mrs. Lonnie Ali.
Good evening. I'm pleased to be here with you tonight and to represent the Muhammad Ali Center in Louisville, Kentucky. Part of the Ali Center's mission focuses on preserving Muhammad's legacy and sharing the 6 core principles that my husband embraced throughout his life: confidence, conviction, dedication, respect, spirituality, and giving. Had he lived, Muhammad would have celebrated his 80th birthday this January 17th. Although he is not with us, we want to celebrate Muhammad's birthday by celebrating his life of service. Muhammad had a saying that he repeated often: service is the rent we pay for our room here on earth. When he uttered those words, he didn't do so lightly. He meant it. He lived it every day, performing small and large acts of service for others. Whether it was taking time out of his day to spend with fans, support food kitchens, attend fundraisers for the homeless, visit sick children in hospitals or the elderly in retirement homes, or just to help someone he met on the street who was down on their luck. Muhammad believed every day we are presented with opportunities to help our fellow man and to show kindness and compassion to each other. He took time to engage, to listen, and to help where he could. He was never too busy to help those in need or to let a person know he genuinely cared about them. He believed we should all be in a race to do good every day. Over the next hour, you will hear from panelists who have known Muhammad for decades. These individuals have been touched by Muhammad's spirit of giving back and are all champions in their own right. I'd like to invite you to join me in celebrating Muhammad's life and legacy and commemorating his 80th birthday through acts of service. Muhammad's legacy touched people around the world, and he would have been honored to have you give back to those in your communities who are in need in honor of his birthday. Be a champion of service today and every day. Thank you.
He was bigger than boxing.
Muhammad Ali was the most important man in the world.
He was larger than life.
His magnetism just was amazing. Who is this guy?
He was a revolutionary. He was a groundbreaker.
What are they going to say about that now, huh?
Ken Burns captures an intimate story of victory, defeat, and determination.
The price of freedom comes high. I have paid, but I am free.
Muhammad Ali, only on PBS.
Hi, I'm Ken Burns, co-director with Sarah Burns and David McMahon of Muhammad Ali, a documentary that was broadcast on PBS this past September. We hope the 8-hour series brings to life one of the most indelible figures of the 20th century, a 3-time heavyweight boxing champion who captivated millions of fans around the world with his mesmerizing combination of speed, grace and power in the ring, and his charm and playful boasting outside of it. Ali insisted on being himself unconditionally and became an icon for people everywhere for his selfless public service and devotion to community. I'm thrilled to join you today to mark what would have been Muhammad Ali's 80th birthday. He continues to be an inspiration for all of us, with his drive to be the best at his craft, his dedication to justice, and his remarkable ability to urge all of us to embrace what we can only call love. In addition to honoring Ali's legacy, we are also honoring Martin Luther King Jr., combining two events into one day, a day that looks forward to a brighter future ahead. Dr. King wrote, and I'm sure Muhammad Ali would wholeheartedly agree, that all people are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Thank you for letting me be with you as we pay tribute to these two great leaders and celebrate with family, friends, and community.
Thanks, Ken, for your inspirational comments. For those of you who have not seen his wonderful documentary, Muhammad Ali, it is being aired again on PBS stations across our country in tribute of Ali's 80th birthday. So check your local listing. So now the moment you've been waiting for. I hope you will join me in welcoming our featured guests. Our first guest today that you'll get to meet is Hana Ali. Hana is the third youngest child of Muhammad Ali. She is the author of 4 books about her father's life and legacy and has been featured in several documentaries and television specials about him. Hana is a freelance writer for CNN.com, ESPN, and the Citizens of Humanity magazine. She was a behavioral specialist working with autistic children for 10 years and is now a realtor. Hana currently lives in Los Angeles. Welcome, Hana.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm very glad to be here today.
So glad to have you. Thank you. And next up, we get to welcome David Chaudoir. David has known Lonnie and Muhammad Ali since childhood. At age 18, he started working part-time in the Ali office while attending college, and ended up staying there for 12 years. He is an anthropologist and writer and is currently the director of storytelling and engagement at the University of Notre Dame. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
So great to have you. Thank you. We'd now like to welcome Dr. Richard Lapchick. Human rights activist, pioneer for racial equity, internationally recognized expert on sports and social issues, scholar and author of 17 books. Dr. Richard Lapchick is often described as a racial conscience of sport. He brought his belief that sport can be an effective instrument of positive social change to the University of Central Florida, where he launched the DeVos Sports Business Management Program. Richard is a regular columnist for ESPN.com and the Sports Business Journal. Among his many other accomplishments, he received the 2021 Muhammad Ali Humanitarian of the Year Award at the Ali Center in November. Welcome, Richard.
It's an honor to be here with everybody.
It's so great to have you. Thank you. We'd also like to welcome John Ramsey. Louisville television and radio personality, John Ramsey brings his keen wit and local insights to the show he hosts, Wave 3 Listens Live. John is proud of his 35-year-plus friendship with Muhammad Ali. He witnessed the magic and love for the champ while touring with him nationally and internationally. Along with Lonnie Ali, John is currently the co-host of a new podcast entitled The Ali in Me. John is passionate about giving back to his hometown in Louisville and specifically focuses on organizations that benefit children. Welcome, John.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
It's so great to have you here, John. Thank you. And to guide today's conversation, we are thrilled to have Reina Kempt. Reina is the sports director of the Louisville Courier-Journal in Louisville, Kentucky, home of Muhammad Ali. She oversees an award-winning staff dedicated to covering sports around the region. She was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, obtained her journalism degree from Louisiana Tech University, where she also played basketball. Kempt is one of only a few Black women sports editors in the country at a major publication. Welcome, Reina. Reina, it's so great to have you here. And, we just I want to give you the reins to jump into the conversation. Thank you so very much for being here, and enjoy.
Thank you, Heather. So glad to be here. Let's dive right in. Hana, as Muhammad Ali's daughter, you obviously had a uniquely close relationship with him. You also have written books about your father, including one co-authored with him. Could you please tell us what it has been like growing up as the daughter of a global icon and what his legacy has meant to you?
Oh my God, that's a lot to say. Let me sum it up. Obviously it's been a great pleasure, a joy, and adventure. My father he was an amazing human being. He taught us from a very young age that nothing makes you greater than anyone else except for your heart. And if you want it to be truly great, then you need to work on your heart. So we learned at a young age, watching him give and bring homeless people home to our house and put them in our empty rooms because he thought it was a sin to have so many empty bedrooms. He would put them in the pile in the back of his Rolls Royce, and we'd go eat together at the restaurants up Wilshire Boulevard. So I grew up watching our father give of himself, of his time. There was never a time that his door was closed to us. It was always open. He would be on the phone trying to negotiate world peace, free hostages in Tehran, and I'd be in the background begging for coffee. He'd never sent me away. So he was just always such a giving human being. And I'm so grateful to have had him as a teacher, as a father, to have his blood in my veins. And we've always been sharing him with the world, and the world loves him back. And I appreciate that. So
thank you, Hana.
Thank you.
John, you are a well-known media figure in Muhammad's hometown of Louisville. As such, you have met so many important figures from this city. Could you tell us how you met Muhammad Ali and what your close relationship meant to you? And also, what special place does he have in the heart of the people of Louisville?
It's a good question. I think for me, like a lot of men my age, initially it was the athlete that attracted me to Muhammad. But then after watching him, his love, his compassion for people, it became to where, I could care less if he boxed it around. He was that impressive. As far as his relationship here in Louisville, he is, as you know, it's been a mixed bag. Early in his career, I think like a lot of towns there, there was some disagreement about some of the stances that Muhammad took. But I think over time, the city, as well as the world, started to understand that this is a man of conviction. He always stood by what he believed. He never wavered. And I think, again, the love and charisma that Muhammad had, and he wasn't a bad looking man either. It didn't hurt. It made him able to convey a message that a lot of people couldn't. He was that special package, that right person at the right time. As far as my friendship, I feel really blessed because this is a guy who started off as my hero. We became close friends. I was a eulogist and a pallbearer at his funeral, which was an honor, but a really, really tough day. With that being said, I live with him in my heart. As Hana's got blood in her veins that is of her father, I feel like I hopefully have retained some of his spirit. So it's truly an honor to be here. Anything positive, Muhammad, I'm all about.
Absolutely, John. Speaking of a good-looking man, could you tell us a little bit about those great photos of Ali behind you?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, these are a gentleman named Simon Bull did these photos here, or did these paintings. And then as you can see, Muhammad signed them. So yeah, one of them is called, the one over here on this side is called, I think it's something about inner peace. And as you can tell, Muhammad is really, he's thinking internally. And then the one over on the other side here is, trying to figure it out, is conviction. So that's a younger Muhammad Ali, and you can see the determination in his eyes. When Muhammad said something, he followed up with it. At that time, he was very focused on fighting. And as we all know, he was the greatest of all time.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. David, many people may not know that Muhammad Ali, who could have lived anywhere he chose, spent 30 years at the peak of his celebrity in a small town in western Michigan, Berrien Springs. David, that's where you grew up. You were just a kid when you met Ali. How did that come about? And did you appreciate who he was at the time?
Yeah, so like a lot of young people my age in Berrien Springs, which is a very small town in southwest Michigan, we all sort of felt like we knew Muhammad because he was always around. But in this small town, you know, he was able to go out and just be who he was. You would see him running along the road, you know, at various cafes and the store and the post office. I got to know him through our family. We were family friends. Literally grew up down the street from him. He maintained an 88-acre estate there right up until through the 2000s. So I really knew him, you know, after his celebrity as a boxer in the ring. And, you know, being a young person, 8 years old or 9 years old when I met him, I didn't really understand, you know, his global reach at that time. I just knew him as a sort of a friendly guy, and we knew Lonnie, you know, and we would go over and just, you know, for life events, birthday parties, etc. So, yeah, it was a very regular entree, which I'm grateful for, you know.
Absolutely. Thank you, Richard. I'm sorry. Thank you, David. Richard, like Muhammad Ali, you have been a longtime fighter for racial justice and for equity in sports and society. Like the champ, you have been attacked, physically in your case, for your courageous stance. How did Ali use his massive celebrity and worldwide following to advance his political and social goals? And what was he trying to accomplish?
I think Muhammad was probably the first athlete who understood the power of sport to use the platform that he had as a great athlete to address social justice issues. Obviously, when he first did that, he was vilified by most of the American people. But I think over time, because of his consistent effort to be tackling social justice issues of many different kinds, helping people not only in America, but around the world to achieve or move toward equality, he became, I believe, by the time of his passing, the most beloved person in the country. And it's because of that commitment that everybody finally was able to see that he had all those years, perhaps more than any other American citizen.
Thank you, Richard.
Welcome.
Now, a group question. What is the one thing you would like others to take away from Muhammad Ali's life's work that would inspire us to be better citizens in our communities and around the world? Hana?
Oh my God, that's easy for me because I would have to say my father loved helping the homeless, and they're so often overlooked. People who have less, we see them everywhere on our street asking for $1 for food, you know. So I think that if you could just open your heart to people that are to most people insignificant or to go unnoticed and just give, even if it's just a smile, that, I mean, my dad would say, I mean, we would be the greatest too. So definitely caring about people. And my father loved, I mean, when he was in big crowds, he tended to, and John Ramsey probably witnessed this a lot, and David, he would literally point to the person who looks like they would get the least attention and say, you back there, you know. He always wanted to just make people feel good about themselves and to have hope and inspire them and uplift them. And he gave them all of himself. So if you could just, and we as everyday people, I mean, my father was more down to earth than the average person on the street, you know, so if people could just remember the humanity inside and be caring about people that we normally wouldn't notice, I mean, that would make you, he would say, the greatest too. So definitely that.
Awesome. John, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I will follow up on that. And I agree with you, Hana. Well said, well articulated. I think Muhammad had this innate ability to be able to spot the underdog, the person who needed him most. I think all of us tend to gravitate towards people that we know, people that we're comfortable with, who have common likes and dislikes, whatever the case may be. With that being said, Muhammad taught me to always look for that person who probably is a little bit shy or someone who may need a little bit of help. And that's where he went directly to. Quick story, he came over one time to the house and we were watching a fight. I think it was a Mike Tyson fight back in the day. I invited some friends over, and some of them, and I understand it. I'm not trying to diminish the fact that they wanted to get an autograph and a picture with Muhammad. But there was a friend of mine who his father had passed 3 years prior. And his memories with his father were a lot, like a lot of guys my age, based around Ali fights, watching Muhammad fight with his dad. And he was quiet, he was shy, he was afraid to meet Muhammad. And Muhammad looked over at him, he could tell, and he started doing this. I want you, come on over here. I want to talk to you. And I remember my friend going like, me? And he goes, yeah, you. Anyway, bottom line is Muhammad spends time with him. He signed a few things for him. And this guy was in tears. And I said to Muhammad, how did you know? And Muhammad goes, I could tell. He needed me. And that kind of ability, just if we don't have the innate ability that Muhammad had, the magic that Muhammad Ali had, then at least try to be, aware of people who might want your attention or want a conversation. And Muhammad was the best I've ever seen at that.
Oh, amazing. David, you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, springboarding off of what the others have just said, I think that Muhammad was the least judgmental person in the world. He just didn't have anything in his character or in his personhood that made him see people in a bad light. And he was always looking for the good. I think that was why he was, able to accomplish so many things in terms of service, whether on an international scale, like working on freeing hostages in various environments, to delivering food aid, places like Afghanistan and Cuba, but also just even in his hometown and of Louisville, but also in Berrien Springs, where he lived for so many years. We would miss appointments all the time because Muhammad wanted to talk to people that he thought maybe needed something on the street. He would have me stop the car, and or stop at the airport, one of the greatest things is, just watching how he interacts with people who've never seen it before. And I remember once being at a airport, I don't remember, New York or something, and people were coming in on an international flight, and the first person they saw coming through was Muhammad Ali on a golf cart, and they're like, "Oh my God!" It's kind of, the others have seen this, but it's remarkable. He had that otherworldly aura about him, and I think it was because there was something deep down in him that he's the only person I've ever met that looked at people that way.
Amazing. The things you could see just walking around Berrien Springs, huh?
Right. That's right.
Most notably, David, remember how he'd press his face as Parkinson started to, elevate? He would press his face in the window of the car just wait for someone to recognize him.
Yeah. Well, he was a jokester also.
I'll make somebody happy today,
That's right. He was a jokester and a trickster, and he would
he's
tell
like
you
a little boy.
A little boy, childlike
he
in
never
his
lost
wonder.
that. Yeah.
In his wonder, yeah. He knew it would make somebody's day. He knew that he was going to make somebody's day if they saw him, and he wanted to give that. He never withheld that.
And remember, he used to always say, "I felt so good. I just did a good deed today. I just did something for God."
Yeah,
right. Smile.
Right.
He
Never
actually
for himself.
felt good about it, the way someone might feel about getting a promotion or a pay raise.
Mm-hmm.
Actually performing an act of service, giving in some way, and made him feel good. And you would see the light in his face, and it was inspiring. So hopefully that will inspire people to do the same.
That's right.
Absolutely. Richard, we would love to hear from you.
Well, 10 years ago, I was lucky enough to be asked to deliver one of the toasts to Muhammad at his 70th birthday. And what I said to him was that on the day that Nelson Mandela was inaugurated, I was one of his guests in Pretoria. And afterwards, he got in a helicopter and went to a Zambia-South Africa soccer match and asked me and a couple of other people to sit in the box with him. And I said, Mr. President, you and Muhammad Ali are the two biggest, most magnetic people I know who have the greatest impact on anybody that they come in contact. And Mandela shook his head and he said, "It's not me. The greatest is Muhammad Ali."
Wow.
Amazing, Richard. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Again, I'm Reina Kempt, sports director of the Louisville Courier-Journal. I'd like to take a moment to let everyone know about an upcoming event known as the Greatest Give Back. This special service event is sponsored here in Louisville by the Ali Center and the Metro Louisville United Way. Inspired by Muhammad Ali's life and legacy and honoring his birthday, Volunteers unite to give the greatest gift of all, service to others. Hana, what was your father's lasting influence on your life, especially as it relates to his humanitarian side? We would love to hear a personal story that may have changed the course of your own life.
Oh my God, that started like from as early as I can remember. I would just have to say, really just thinking about how you affect other people. And my father used to always say that, you know, fame comes with a price. It's a responsibility. And I think that's one of his speeches, the responsibility of fame, and how, you know, you have to think about how you affect people, especially being his daughter or, you know, being himself, Muhammad Ali. You know, my father could never fire anyone. I remember if someone had to be let go, it was always Lonnie having to do it, or my mom or her, you know, so he couldn't, you know, because he thought that he would just crush them if it came from him. He was constantly always thinking about his effect on the world and on people. And amazingly, to have reached the fame that he did, the level of fame that he has, and to have remained so humble, as everyone here I know knows, especially David and John, you know, he always was so surprised and happy to know that the people haven't forgotten him, that he's still making the front page and he's still making the news in general. You know, he was so humble, even though he was so proud and knew how important he was and his legacy was. He just couldn't believe this kid from Louisville, Kentucky, who went through the hardships he did, could still be so loved. Because, you know, a lot of the time my father thought that it would only stay his fame with his staying on top in the boxing world. So he was always a shock to him, learning that, oh, they still love me, they're still rooting for me. And I think in over the course of his life, he saw just how much people did love him. I remember one time he said, I wonder why. I said, are you kidding me? You wonder why? You know, but he's such an amazing, amazing, amazing human being. And to be so famous and so loved and world known, and to be able to retain that heart and retain that humility, and to be able to still stay so humble and so loving and so decent. And, you know, he constantly worked at that. He said the same way someone might have to work at becoming a doctor or a lawyer, you got to work at staying humble, especially when you have the world at your feet. And he always did that. He practiced spirituality. He practiced it. He did it in his everyday life. And most importantly, he did it behind the scenes. You know, he didn't do it for publicity. He used to say that the true and best way to give is to do it in private and not to receive any praise and reward for it. So most of the things that he did for people, you'll never know. You would never know. I mean, you hear little stories from us, but he was constantly giving. I mean, like David said, we couldn't drive down the street. If there was a man that needed a ride, I mean, I was picking up hitchhikers, you know, so I was like, we can get killed, Daddy, you know, pull over. And he'd be like, how much money do you have in your purse? I'll pay you back. Give it to him. You know, so I'm not kidding you. He was constantly trying to find new ways to give. And that's the most inspiring lesson that I can say I've learned. That and my father's profound spirituality and faith. You know, he never lost it. And he taught me young that nothing in life will always be smooth. But as long, you never lose your faith, stay loyal to it, stay positive, keep your heart open. And, you know, those are the most important lessons, no matter what comes, you know, just be kind to people. So, I mean, I always come back to that because you meet so many people. I was never impressed with the different celebrities growing up because I thought, you know, they're complaining about having to be role models. We didn't sign on to be role models, but you did. You know, you don't get it for nothing, you know? So it's like when you have a world of people looking up to you, you are a role model. And it's such a huge gift. Your life is made easier. You know, you have a legacy that you can live and inspire people. And my dad truly loved that. So I'll stop now because I'm going to take up everyone's time. I can go on and on and on.
We love to hear you talk, Hana.
My mouth is running.
Thank you. John, obviously, Muhammad was a champion to people around the world. What exactly was it about Muhammad that made him so special? And do you have a personal story to share that changed your life or gave you inspiration to follow in his footsteps?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say I look at Hana. Hana, I look at you and it just warms my heart because you look so much like your father. He said, man, look how pretty she is, man. She look good. She look just like me, man.
Yeah.
And you do. But it does warm my heart. But there's so many stories, and they're all good about Muhammad. And there's many that have impacted me. And people ask, Hana just said something like, why do people love Muhammad so much? And I think I've kind of figured it out. And I know it's more than this, but I think it's authenticity. I think there's something inside the human DNA that can recognize genuine, that can recognize authentic. And Muhammad was authentic to the core. He was full of love. It poured out of him. He was very charismatic, and he stuck by everything he said. And it was just so authentic. You were just drawn to it. It's like everyone wants to be authentic. Coca-Cola, we're the real thing. And I think pretty soon we get jaded and we understand how to distinguish between real and not real. Muhammad was so real. My favorite story, and I'll make it quick. I told it in his eulogy, and the reason I did, because I think it's the best example of how Muhammad's mind worked. So 2000 Olympics, we go to Sydney, Australia. We end up at a boxing match. The USA fighter wins. Make a long story short, you know, they come down for the fist to chin photo op, and he's with the boxer, and the crowd is chanting USA, USA. And I'm thinking, okay, this is my Olympic moment. I felt the patriotism. I was proud to be an American. And Muhammad leans over to me and he said, "Where's the loser? I want to see the loser." And I said, "What? Excuse me?" He goes, "Tell him I want to see the loser. Where is he?" So the Olympic official comes over and he takes us to the loser's locker room. And it isn't like meeting with the winning fighter. There's no one there. There's a kid in the corner. He's got a mouse under his eye. He's got a towel around his neck. And think where he is. Okay, he's just let down his country. His career is probably over. He's probably the lowest of low. Muhammad comes in the room, and this kid who couldn't even speak English, he goes, "Muhammad Ali." And Muhammad starts throwing jabs at him. He goes, "Come on, man, show me what you got. Let me see it." And he's throwing all this. And this kid starts ducking and weaving and starts smiling. And Muhammad puts his arm around him and he says, "Hey, man," he said, "you can be a champion someday." He goes, "I believe in yourself." He goes, "Don't give up." And I remember we got back in the car. And I was so caught up in the moment, I didn't even think about the loser. And I told that to Muhammad. I said, "Muhammad, I try so hard to be a nice person. But I have to admit, I didn't give that loser a second thought." I said, "Muhammad, you are the greatest." And Muhammad goes, "Tell me something I don't already know." He knew how he could affect people. He knew that he could lift people up. And I've never seen something like it. I mean, he took that guy from the lowest of low to the highest of high.
Oh, amazing story, John. Thank you. David, in your capacity, you must have seen Ali with all sorts of people all over the world. What made him so universally appealing and beloved, especially as a humanitarian?
You know, I think just speaking to one event that I think of as a pivotal moment in his life was when he appeared at the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta and had the flame that lit the torch there, and he was on worldwide television again, and I think re-entered the consciousness of people who always knew him but really hadn't seen him at that level in such a long time. And Muhammad was really suffering from the ravages of Parkinson's disease, which a lot of families suffer with. And the greatest thing about Ali in those last 2-3 decades of his life was he never shied away from showing who he was with Parkinson's, and I think it really crystallized and embodied this indomitable courage that people could marry with their images of him being a world heavyweight champion, all the images and whatever it was about Muhammad that they loved before. Here they could see it, in the flesh. He's out there. He's not hiding anything. This is who he is. Somebody suffering, from Parkinson's, which we've even had in my own family, it's a very, very taxing and difficult disease. And Muhammad, didn't let it slow him down. He really didn't, and he could have. So I think that courage really galvanized a lot of people, and even a new generation. So I think he's more popular than he's ever been.
Absolutely, David. I was a young child when Ali carried that torch, and I remember it distinctively. It was just so monumental. It means so much to many, and even as a young child, not really understanding completely his battle with Parkinson's, just being able to see him overcome that in front of the entire world just meant so much. So thank you for that story.
Absolutely.
Richard, do you have a personal story to share that inspired you the most, that you would like people to know about Muhammad Ali?
Well, as an example of the magnitude of his charisma, I was asked by a group of people that I was working with at the UN if I could get Muhammad to come speak at the UN in 1978. And I didn't know him that well at the time. That's when our friendship actually started. And I made that arrangement with a guy from Ghana who became the Secretary General of the UN, Kofi Annan. And when Kofi Annan became SG in 1996, he asked if I could help get Muhammad to come back to be his first messenger of peace. And of course, Muhammad agreed. And who else could you pick to be the best messenger of peace in the world? But after it was over, what I want to mention is Muhammad was asked if he would go to the UN Plaza, where a march of 2,000 young kids from Harlem had gone on International Children's Day to march for peace. And the security people were going crazy. They didn't want Muhammad to go into that crowd, but he went into that crowd. And if you can picture a plaza with 2,000 kids and Muhammad Ali, they were too young to know who he was, but they could feel his presence. He was like a magnet to them. Kids ran to him, jumped on his shoulders. He picked everybody up he could, kissed everybody he could. People just knew, whether they knew him or not, that there was something really special there. And Muhammad Ali's legacy is that special thing that he left for the world is still present today.
So sorry. Hana, I wanted to ask you about something we spoke about last week. You mentioned shortly about Ali wanting to do some sort of program, I see what I'm talking about. Yes, world. I would love to hear you tell that story and tell everyone listening about the thing that Ali wanted to do before he passed.
So in the actually it was back in the 70s, late 70s, before Parkinson's, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. He wanted to started the process of starting an organization called World. And it stood for the World Organization for Rights, Liberty, and Dignity. And he had this vision to get a jumbo jet and to fill it with every child from different ages, from every culture and nationality around the world, and then to fly and visit all the leading nations of the world to help bring about racial and cultural understanding and to help bring about world peace. And he thought that if we could just take these beautiful children, and they are the future, and that he always said how, the only way to bring about any true change is going to start with the children, because they're the future. So what we teach them, they're going to breed a whole new generation, and then so on and so forth. So anything that we ever want to, create change and something positive has to start with our children, because they learn from us, our actions, and he knew that. So that was his dream and his vision. And he used to say that God never called it Baptist or Jehovah's Witness or Catholicism or Islam. We gave the titles, and that's what separates and divides people. And I want to get something together where all people come together, working under one nation, the human race, and to teach and to spread world peace and love. And he called it World. So that didn't get to happen, unfortunately. But I thought it was such a beautiful vision, so reminiscent of my father and who he was. And no one knows about it. So thank you for bringing that up, because I love talking about it. But yeah, maybe one day, who knows?
Absolutely.
World Organization, Rights, Liberty, and Dignity. Ali Center should start it.
Beautiful. You can still do that, Hana. You can do that.
I know. We'll figure something out. It'll be great, right? And his legacy. But what we can do is collect a whole bunch of tennis shoes and socks and for the greatest give back and be a champion of change, and go find some homeless people to hand it to and give it out. And that's the best way to honor my father's legacy, is find someone on the street and give them something, even if it's just a, hey, how are you doing today? A nice smile, or God bless you, just something, give something that changed someone's spirit.
Absolutely. Love that, Hana. Let the service come to you. John, let's talk about your time in Louisville and having Muhammad Ali back. Is there a favorite moment or a moment that sticks out to you from Ali's time returning back home to Louisville?
I think, like the city of Louisville, Muhammad's thoughts about Louisville also evolved. And there came a time when I remember we were talking about a possibility of the Muhammad Ali Center. And this was before it wasn't even a vision. It wasn't talked about that much. And I remember Lonnie and a few other people, we were all trying to work towards making something like this happen. Muhammad said, no, I'm happy. I have a street named after me, Muhammad Ali Boulevard. I'm okay with it. And then suddenly when it started becoming reality, he was very, very proud of it. What made me proud as a Louisvillian was I can remember when we were on the plane from Arizona to Louisville for Muhammad's funeral, and we had the body aboard that plane. And I remember the imam came to Lonnie, and we were on the plane, and he said, look, it's really a big honor for a Muslim to be buried in Mecca. He said, we can turn this plane around and Muhammad would be buried in Mecca, and it's a huge honor. And Lonnie stuck by Muhammad's wishes. She says, no, he wanted to be buried in his hometown. It meant a lot to him. And me as a Louisvillian, you know, that touched me. And because I was glad to hear that, because his hometown's certainly proud of him. As you know, you're a Louisvillian, Reina, and I appreciate what you're doing here tonight and paying tribute to Muhammad. But I think we're all very proud of him. He's our hometown hero, and there's not many heroes left. And I wish she'd hurry up and get her, wherever she may be, the next one, because we sure could use her. But Muhammad was a true hero, and I feel for this generation because we're in need of another.
Yeah, absolutely, John. David, speaking of Muhammad Ali and how he impacts towns, just talk about his impact on Berrien Springs, and if there's a story that you can think of that really impacted the town or impacted you personally in his time of Berrien Springs.
Well, Muhammad is an outsized personality for such a small town, you would think. But the irony or the coincidence or the most interesting aspect was that he just sort of slid into the everyday life of the town. He was present. He wasn't hiding out. Every person of a certain age from our town, and indeed even our region of Southwest Michigan, Northern Indiana, has a story about Muhammad, whether it's at the airport or whether it's seeing him, like I've mentioned before, out and about. And he was just a person who you would consider accessible. I mean, nowadays, it seems like that would be such a foreign concept. But, the 80s, 90s, even into the 2000s, he was present. And talking about giving back, I mean, there's just no way to properly enumerate all of the things that Muhammad and Lonnie did for the not just Berrien Springs, but I would say the region. That would, building sports complexes and baseball fields and hosting people at their farm constantly, and it just sort of went on and on. And if I was sitting at home right now listening to us, I would say they keep talking about how Muhammad was so humble and had this humility, and that seems at odds with his sort of braggadocio personality that he became famous for in the 60s and 70s. But it's 100% true, And one thing about living in a small town with him was that you could witness it day to day. He was exactly who you wanted him to be, and better.
People would probably tell you if you had a random person from Michigan, I was out at a restaurant and Muhammad Ali just got up. I didn't have to even ask for an autograph. He just started walking around and passing them out to everybody. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Everybody.
He had to do our rounds. He'd be like, get up. And he'd give me the autographs. He'd pre-sign them. So it took him a long time to sign it with Parkinson's. And we'd have to make our circle around every table, and he'd pass out an autograph to every single person.
He knew that's what they wanted.
Daddy's so funny. He was so funny. Yeah.
He wanted a little piece of it.
It used to embarrass me though. I was like, Daddy, how do you know they want one? Yeah. Memory lane.
Yeah.
Back. Oh, I can't.
John, we would love to hear from you. Can you unmute?
I was never muted on my back.
Yeah. Now we can hear you.
I don't know what happened. I didn't touch anything. But anyway, I was just saying, if you went to dinner with him, and Richard, you know this, we all know this, he was going to end up at some point back in the kitchen. He wants to talk to the cooks. He wants to talk to the busboys, whatever the case might be. He didn't grade people on level of importance or how much money he had. He just wanted to meet everybody. And it wasn't just the autograph, as you said, David. If they wanted that, of course, they wanted to give it to him. But he wanted to get to know him. What do you do? What's your child do? How old is he? What does she like to do? What's her hobbies? He really wanted to connect. And it was just, as I said before, authentic. And so, yeah, it was real. Like you said, David, you articulated that very well. It's hard to believe that somebody like that can be so humble, but he was.
Thank you, John. Richard, would love to hear a story from you in the aspect of his political views and his social views when getting public opinion and people kind of coming back around to love him. How did he use his political views and his social views and kind of spearhead that conversation and those views to him to the humanitarian side of it and to just giving back and to service?
There are so many examples I could give, but the one that comes to mind, because it maybe was one of the most difficult periods of American life, was in the wake of 9/11, you may remember that there was a big global concert that was held, and Muhammad got on the stage, and even at that stage of his life when it was difficult for him to communicate, talked about Islam as a religion of love, not hate. The people who perpetrated 9/11 are not really representing Islam. Islam is a religion of love and peace. And only Muhammad Ali could have said that at that particular moment in time, because he was so beloved, and people would listen to him when they didn't want to listen to anything about love and Islam.
Yeah, absolutely, Richard. Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for sharing your reflections of a man who meant so much to each of you and to so many people around the world. Now, I'd like to turn it back over to Heather from PBS Books.
Reina, thank you so very much for guiding today's conversation. And Hana, David, Richard, John, thank you for sharing your incredible stories with us. Tonight, you've heard about the extraordinary individual of Muhammad Ali outside of the ring. We've listened to his acts of courage, generosity, selflessness, kindness, and compassion. We encourage all of you to consider participating in the greatest give back to honor the birthdays of Muhammad Ali and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Muhammad Ali is famous for TKOs. We want to promote a twist on that theme and ask you to dedicate yourself to giving of your time, talent, kindness, or offering. To celebrate the National Day of Service, Martin Luther King Day, and Ali's birthday, consider being the change maker. Commit a TKO in your community. Share a story or pick with us. Use hashtag Ali80. Another thing to consider is joining PBS Books on January 18th at 8 p.m. for the W.K. Kellogg Foundation's National Day of Racial Healing. It is an opportunity to broaden and deepen your commitment to social justice through equity, diversity, and inclusion. We hope to bring people together in their communities to take more collective action to create a more just and equitable world. Thank you for joining PBS Books this evening. Until next time, be well and happy reading.